What is the best way to use scarce resources to reduce poverty? Who should benefit from programs to reduce poverty? And how can these beneficiaries be found? Within development policy, a prominent answer to these questions has emerged: cash transfers targeted at the poor. But how can the state find out who is poor and where these people are, especially in contexts with large informal economies where reliably measuring income can be difficult? According to the World Bank and increasingly other international organizations, the answer to this challenge is a social registry. A social registry is a large database which holds demographic and socioeconomic data of all potential beneficiaries of social policy programs. The data in this database is then used to calculate a poverty score and to allocate any form of social policy provision. I question that this model answers this challenge on both pragmatic and political grounds. It's estimated as of 2022, about 60 countries worldwide use a social registry to allocate social policy provision. The World Bank has really codified the social registry model and provided a vast array of countries with loans to develop these systems, from Ecuador to Pakistan, from Indonesia to Chad. But given the fact that social policy allocation, so deciding who should receive and who should not receive social policy, and measuring poverty are both deeply political, my research explores the institutional and political implications of this social registry model. So I traced how this model came to be considered best practice by these international organizations, and also traced the development of a social registry in Kenya, trying to understand how it emerged to develop this system, whether and how it's become embedded in the social policy system, and what are the implications of using it to allocate programs. And I found that although many of the features may sound appealing and efficient, what I found is that the reality is quite different due to the logistical, financial, political, as well as institutional challenges of building this model. For example, in Kenya, I found that developing a social registry has required considerable state capacity and financial resources, and as a result, the coverage of the system has been much lower than expected. The aim was to include 50% of households in the social registry, and as of yet, it's about less than 20% are included, and there's a lack of transparency about how many households are actually in the registry. As well as this, we see that the data has quickly become out of date due to the changing nature of people's circumstances and the lack of a systematic way of updating the data. And lastly, we see that the social registry is incompatible to deliver a universal social policy program, such as the older person's cash transfer, which is in place in Kenya. This shows the strong link between the social registry model and the allocation of poverty-targeted social provision rather than universal provision. So, given the increasing dominance of this social registry model across very diverse contexts, I believe that scholars, academics, as well as politicians really need to start asking more questions of this model, interrogating whether it provides value for money for the states that are building it, but also starting to imagine alternatives that would allow an allocation of social policy which is more attuned to people's changing circumstances, as well as more bottom-up, and fundamentally paves the way for universal policy, social policy provision. I hope that my research can contribute to filling some of these research gaps. Thank you.